Welcome again to VegasStrongAndFearless.com. It's been a good week, and the weeks get better and better, and the days get better and better. Just like my friend Snoop Dogg says, if you're breathing, you're achieving. And so, if you're watching me today, you're doing all right, man. You're breathing. And with that attitude, life is good. The life is good. Look around. Take a deep breath. I'm looking at some trees, the universe that my God has provided for me to enjoy. See, everything in the world, from the nature to the oceans to the water to the trees, they're for your benefit. They're for my benefit. Because the Bible says, again, as I mentioned, I'm a theologian, he said, you will have dominion over all this. So all this is for me to enjoy. All this, from the beauty of the flowers to the trees to the ocean to the human beings, it's all for me. It's all for you. And that's why you need to have the right attitude and enjoy your life. Rejoice. And again, I say rejoice. I want to hear from you. As I mentioned in the past, we're beginning a holistic center, training center. We're thinking maybe in a couple months we're going to put this together. I need your help. I need $10,000. And if you contribute towards this holistic center, training center, and this holistic training center is going to be a center that we're going to teach this material on an ongoing basis. Classes, a weekly class, and we're also going to have a wedding chapel there. We're also going to begin a Christian church and call a pastor to lead this Christian church. So we want to do a lot of things, but I need some assistance. And the only reason we're going to use this, or I want your assistance, because this money is going to be your center. It's not my center. It's going to be our center, and this money will be used for part of the rent and part of the travel for the gas for the pastor. And so, if the Almighty has placed in your heart to donate towards the center, do it. Just go to PayPal. It's right in the home page. It's going to explain to you how to do it. But maybe you just want to become a member. That's fine. We need members. Join, go to the home page, click on how to become a member. $5, and you're going to become a member to help us to move this show and produce this show that goes all over the world. I had a friend that called me from Jamaica. She said, I saw your show, and because this show is going all over the world. In California, in Mexico, in the United States, all over the world. So if you have anything you want to share with me that we could broadcast and get it out there, send me your emails, Rudy@VegasStrongAndFearless.com. Well, the few minutes we have left, we want to talk about two words. And the words are static and dynamic. Static and dynamic. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the mind today. But before we do that, let's look at the body once again. The 5 organs, and there's over 17 organs in your body plus, but the main 5, the brain, the heart, the liver, the kidneys, the lungs. Well, let's look at the brain for a moment. Not the mind, the brain, the organ. And that brain is moving. When you're born, when you come into this world, your brain is functioning and pumping blood or sending blood to your hearts and your respiration system. It's moving. It's on a move. It's not static. Your brain. Thank God. You don't have to worry about, I wonder if this heart is going to pump today. Or I wonder if that blood is going to circulate today. That's automatic. That's the beauty of your body. It's not static. Because if it was static, you wouldn't be around. You wouldn't be around. So, it's very important to realize the importance of static and dynamic. So we know that the brain is dynamic because it's moving. We're not talking about the mind yet. We're not talking about the mind. The organ of the brain has that responsibility to make sure your heart's pumping, to make sure that your arteries are okay and the cells are moving up and down, so forth and so forth. But remember, as a baby, your mind hasn't been formed yet. Static and dynamic. Let's think about the word static first of all. What would be static, in other words? Well, let's say you're driving down the road and you come to a stop sign. The car stops. Static. Let's say that you're watching a movie and you want to go to the bathroom and you pause the movie. That's static. No movement. Well, that's not your brain. As I mentioned, your brain is on the move. Let's switch it over to the importance of being dynamic. For this is where you want to be mentally. You see, your brain only moves, has a limitation. But the mind is where everything's going to be accomplished. The mind is where the conscience is. The mind is where the subconscious is. The mind is where the superconscious is. So you want to move to a state of being dynamic mentally. Now there's different stages here. I'll give an example of dynamic. 4th of July. When I was a child, I used to love to go to the store with my friends and we would buy these caps. You know the little caps you put in the gun, play gun and shoot and play cowboys and Indians? Caps. And we would even put them on the ground with a hammer and hit the cap for a louder explosion. Dynamic. But as I got older, my friend says, let's go get some firecrackers. So we used to go down and get some firecrackers, louder explosion. But the principle of the law of dynamic is occurring. It's just a louder explosion, a different level. Your mind is the same way. Now, here in Las Vegas, I went to a particular hotel that it was an explosion because they were tearing it down, they were destroying it, and they used dynamite sticks. A different form of utilizing a dynamic explosion. It's still an explosion. It's still movement, but it's much more in accomplishing what it had to be accomplished. Well, your mind is the same way. Your mind, it can be semi-static. Example. I was growing up in a particular neighborhood And I grew up in this neighborhood for 18 years. And that was a common way of living back there. You hardly ever moved around. So most people lived in a very static mood. They grew up in that particular neighborhood and they followed the footsteps of the daddy or the mama, semi-static. But there were some people, nowadays, you don't do that. Nowadays, if you live in a particular neighborhood for 2 or 3 years, you're very unusual. Your movement is more of a dynamic movement. Now with the phone, the technology, it's very dynamic. And so what I'm trying to say here is you need to be strong, fearless and strong in a very dynamic form, utilizing your mind. Because the brain is going to function one way or the other. The day it stops functioning, we're going to be at the gravesite. But your mind is ongoing. Your mind does not sleep. Your mind wants to move in a dynamic form. And I want you to understand this when it comes to being strong mentally, physically, spiritually. You want to be able to move out in a very dynamic fashion. Now, if you could understand the importance, or not the importance, but if you could understand the separation of the brain, it's going to have its function, but the mind also have its function. That's where the key is. That's where you're going to accomplish the unlimited richness of making money. As last week I mentioned, the prosperous substance, money. There's no limit to how much money you can make if you believe in living a certain way. The prosperous health, the prosperous, as I mentioned, substance. You see, the mind will control what's happening outwardly. The brain will control what's happening inwardly with your human body. But the cause and effect, the cause, mental, will affect what's happening outwardly. I don't think we place enough emphasis on the mind. Think about how we throw the mind around. Very example. We say, I don't mind. You've heard that statement. How about make up your mind? How about mind your own business? I want to give you a piece of my mind. I don't mind you. Focus on your mind. Love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. As a man thinketh, or as a mind thinketh, so he is. Do you mind? Use your mind. If you don't mind, mindset. Don't mind him. But keep in mind, this is not the brain, this is the mind. How much time I hear left here, Webmaster? I didn't even pay attention. Okay. She tells me I got a couple minutes. It goes so fast. And this will probably, I want to continue this in our next setting here, next show. But to wrap this up, the mind, make up your mind. There you go. Make up your mind that you will live in a dynamic fashion. And it's up to you to understand how to utilize your mind in a dynamic explosion fashion. There's no limit to what your mind can do. And so my prayer is this week that you will utilize your mind to accomplish anything, everything you want to accomplish. Let me hear from you. Let me hear from you. God bless you. It's an exciting time to live today. And I will wrap this up by saying, oh, by the way, I don't teach politics here very often, but I will say I am an independent. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I'm an independent because I jump back and forth. And politics is important. One of these days we're going to do a show on politics, but it all begins, again, how you think and what matters in this time that you're living in today. God bless you, and look forward to hearing from you.